They were very different people, actually. My father was much more sociable in one way, and much more outgoing. I mean, he was 12 years younger, and it actually showed. Bert supplied the village with milk, and there was great rivalry between him and Sid Simmons, who lived at East Wells, because they both supplied the village with milk. Anyway, quite a lot of people got their milk from Bert and Wynne, because Wynne had her sister, Florrie, living with her, who got a mental illness around about 10. And she delivered all the milk. She also went to chapel. And at Christmas time, she walked round the village singing, "Hark the bloody angels sing." So people took to Florrie. She was incredible. I was the apple of her eye. I remember my mother telling me one story that Florrie walked down to our place, apparently, and some other child gave Florrie the impression he was going to molest my cat. And Florrie said, "That's John Ayre's cat. If you touch that cat, I'll box your bloody ears." So she was quite a character. My grandmother lived to the ripe old age of 95. And she lived for 70 years in Jules Lodge.
Which is down
by the, yes, where, down ahead, just in the park. The reason she stayed there, Hugh Kenyon told me that when he became involved with Miss Stutter, I've forgotten her Christian name, he became involved with presumably her legal exec. And Hugh said, the first thing she said to me was, "Remember, Granny Ayre can stay in Jules Lodge as long as she lives." She paid about 3 and 6pence a week, I think, which was delivered on the quarter day. It was one of those rituals where my grandmother went up to the park to pay her rent on quarter day or whatever it was. But Hugh had specific instructions, and she was there for about 70 years. No mains water, and very early days, no electricity either. Bert, who lived here, sent the milk down to my grandmother at Jules Lodge, and it was taken by Florrie. She walked 2 miles down, 2 miles back every day for absolutely ages. Bert was always very impressed because this cottage was the Liberal headquarters for King's Lymton. And of course, the MP at that time was one Jeremy Thorpe. And Jeremy Thorpe would knock on the door and go straight in to be greeted by Wynne and Bert. And his first remark always, "Well, hello, Bert, how are you? And hello, Wynne, how are you? And how are Daisy and whatever caught the cows? How are they?" Well, obviously his PA had briefed him in the car, having found out the names of the cows, but my uncle was very impressed by that. He did have one, I don't know whether it's Guinness Book of Records or not, claim to fame, in that he eventually bought an A35 van, and he decided to learn to drive. Well, unfortunately, he failed 13 tests, which takes some doing. I think he ultimately passed, but he did have one incident before passing, in that he needed to take, well, what he did was go to South Milton. He needed to take a sheep to the market on a Thursday. And the obvious thing to do was put it in the back of the van and drive it to South Milton. But of course, he was only a learning driver. So he had to get somebody who was a qualified driver to go with him. Well, the obvious candidate was one William Westacott of number 8 Brandywell. So Bill came up and off they went. And they went down past Wooder because Uncle Bert didn't like going Huxford way for whatever reason. Anyway, past Wooder, down to Cadham Bridge, and along in front of New Barn. Now, my uncle was quite a large man. Indeed, the steering wheel lay on his tummy. The sheep in the back started to bump each side of the van. And my uncle, just down in front of New Barn, turned round to look at the sheep. And of course, in doing that, pulled down on the steering wheel. And they went over the bank. Next time you go down, have a look how steep it is. The van rolled over and over and over and ended up short of the lake. Apparently, the conversation subsequently went, Bill said, "Are you all right, Bert?" And my uncle said, "Yeah, I'm all right, Bill. What about you?" He said, "Yeah." Well, he said, "I buggered my nose and the bloody sheep stayed." Which apparently is a true story. So, but he then passed his test and graduated to a Morris 1000, if I remember rightly.